Hi everyone, or maybe today I should say good morning everyone, because it is morning here as I sit to record this, and well, in a moment you'll see why morning is so appropriate. Well, this is a special weekend dedicated to exploring a bit more of Cat Stevens. I did my first listen of the first piece that I've heard him present yesterday. Today we are going to do another one, and Vlad has chosen Morning Has Broken, which, good morning everyone. Well, if this is the tune that I know, then I can say I know what he's going to be singing, because Morning Has Broken is a hymn which has been set to a Scottish Gaelic tune, traditionally known as bunison, and it's one that works incredibly well on the harp. I've listened to many different renditions of it, instrumental, vocal, choral. I don't know if I've ever heard Cat Stevens perform it. I kind of doubt it, because that's not the circles that I have spent my life in. But I do know the tune, so I'm very curious to see what he does with it and how he handles it. So, well, I should read the couple paragraphs Vlad gave me. Morning Has Broken is a Christian hymn first published in 1931. It has words by English author Eleanor Fargian and was inspired by the village of Alfriston in East Sussex, then set to a traditional Scottish Gaelic tune, bunison. Well, at least he got the information correct. Congratulations, Vlad. The song became identified with Cat Stevens due to the popularity of this recording. It reached number 6 on the US Billboard Hot 100, number 1 on the US Easy Listening chart in 1972, and number 4 on the Canadian RPM magazine charts. Well, now it's my turn to listen to Cat Stevens' performance. Should I say Cat Stevens' cover? I don't know. We could call it a cover, right? Because it is. Anyway, let's see how it sounds.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the world. Sweet.
Okay, yes, it is the tune that I know. He's taking a very, and no, I don't believe I've ever heard this performance before. He's taking a very light, kind of reflective approach to it. I wouldn't call it a feeling of awe that's being communicated, but perhaps a little bit of amazement, perhaps a little bit of, oh, morning has broken, and isn't it beautiful? But there's a real softness about the way he's presenting it with his voice. And I guess I talked yesterday a bit about, I was curious to explore more of how he handles his voice in different contexts. This takes a very gentle, soft approach, which suits. And I like the piano interludes. They give this sort of feeling of, It's the feeling I get when I step out into the forest, early morning, the sun is rising, and the birds are just going absolutely crazy. And it feels like there should be a little stream rippling somewhere, or the dew or rain dripping off of the tips of the green leaves as they are touched by the breeze. It's that sort of feeling of natural motion, activity, vibrancy, and abundant life that you get especially in the springtime after all the leaves have burst out, at least for me.
Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew completeness where his feet pass.
Okay. So I love the way he handles that verse, especially as it relates to what is being expressed in the lyrics. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven. Just think of a sunlit rainfall and just the raindrops sprinkling down. Like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden. And as I was listening to I guess it's kind of a mix of choral strings, bit of sound in the background. When he got to that line, praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, somehow that bit of choral backing, and of course the image of the raindrops sprinkling down from the piano running down the keys. By the time he got to that point in the lyrics, I could just feel myself stepping outside and wading through grass about this high in my bare feet that is soaked with dew. And, you know, the way it just, it soaks into your skin and it's cold and it's refreshing and the grass is soft, it's young grass. If I could say that chorus strings mix in the background makes it feel wet. It gives it that feeling of wetness. Really nice. Okay, I'm going to back up to this little interlude here because he went a little bit differently with the piano, which means maybe he's coming with a different approach. We'll see.
Where his feet Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the world.
I have to say that is a lovely interpretation, performance, arrangement of this piece of music. I am very familiar with this tune, as I said.
Is it the best that you've ever heard?
I am not going to approach it from that perspective because I feel like, well, you know my thoughts about the best. The best in what way? What are we trying to convey with this? How's the message being? A song like this can have so many, and that takes me to something I was going to say a little bit later. I'll say it now. It's not at all how I had envisioned the piece of music. It's not. I have kind of two different visions of this piece of music, which I've lived with for a long time. And one is this very exuberant, bursting forth, morning has broken, and it's just springing and kind of like a fountain bursting forth, and the idea of just vibrancy and energy. It's a lot of fun. The other one is what I hear a lot of people give it when they create an instrumental, especially a harp or piano version of it. Very peaceful and placid. Which to me is a bit bland, but if you color it up with some appropriate Gaelic, Scottish, Celtic ornamentation and a little bit of that sort of style, it works really well. And if you give a little bit of a suspension, adds a little bit of tension, release, and decorative elements, which are stylistically very much very well suited to the tune, to the melody, especially taking it in that kind of traditional folk, Scottish folk approach. It's nice. It's very nice. This one kind of hits a middle ground because there's the exuberant piano interlude, and then there's the gentler verse with his voice. I was going to go to his voice first, but let's finish talking this topic first. He doesn't give it a bland, placid, morning has broken like the first. There's a sort of a little bit of a buoyancy in his voice. There's a little bit of a, I could say, a bounce to his step as he walks. Morning has broken like the first morning. But he doesn't overdo it to the point of it coming across as too aggressive. So it still has a very peaceful quality. And as I said, it's not so much meditative or awestruck as just amazed at the beauty that is hitting our eyes from all sides. That's what I get from his interpretation, and it's absolutely lovely. I like it. I like it a lot. And I like the fact that it's different from the visions I have had of the piece as a performer, as an artist myself, because I always love getting new ideas and learning to relate to a piece in a fresh way. And he brings a fresh approach for me, because of course I haven't heard his interpretation before. Now, to his voice. That was a little bit of a surprise too. Maybe I won't say surprise, but a pleasant discovery that he handles his voice this way here, because yesterday I heard different things in his voice, which I also liked a lot. Now I'm even more curious, because this is a new vocal sound from him, and to me, which means, as I suspected yesterday, he has a lot to give in his voice. It feels as if he is not limiting, but he is focusing and restraining his use of his voice to match exactly what he envisions for a piece. He doesn't stray outside of the parameters he's set for a certain interpretation, a certain piece of music. But I hear and I feel that there is a lot more that his voice can give. Now I'm curious, does he ever go there, or does he stay in this kind of more subdued, gentle vocal style, because I think that he could give a very powerful sound, or tonal colorations, I'm hearing him handle very subtly in this piece of music, but every little turn of phrase, every new verse, he places it so carefully, and he modulates the approach so precisely to suit what he has to communicate. It's nice to hear that kind of attention. And I also like, as I said yesterday, I like how natural his voice comes across. I like how natural it feels. I like that it doesn't feel like it's been manipulated in the recording studio in major ways. It feels like he could be in the room here with his guitar strumming and singing, and it would sound pretty much like what we hear in this recording. I love that. That is one of the things that I like about the earlier rock recordings, the earlier era of rock music, as opposed to the 90s, the 2000s, and beyond, where it feels like everybody just kind of went crazy about editing the voice. And as nice as some of that music sounds that I've discovered from those eras, there is this little feeling of sadness in me that I don't feel like I'm listening to a real person in a way, a real voice. I feel like I'm listening to a recreation or a representation of a voice. And it's nice. You can hear the character of each voice within that, but it just feels a little bit sanitized. And I like the unsanitized voice, personally. I like the feeling of immediacy and intimacy that it brings. And I love that about these two pieces that I've heard Cat Stevens perform now. Both of them sound to me like it is a real person with a real voice. And whether or not it has been modified in the studio, the end result is one that feels very personal, very intimate, very colorful in a natural way. And I love that. I love the way he approaches the subtleties of the phrase and how he rises and falls with it, but it's always in a natural way. And so this has been a very pleasant, enjoyable, special weekend for me. It has made me even more curious to explore more of Cat Stevens, especially because of this curiosity about what does he do with his voice? How does his style become, what more is there in his style? How does it fit all together? And so I'm sure that you will be seeing a bit more of Cat Stevens on this channel in the future. Until then, I'll see you soon.